Paul Grzybowski and Dave Claassen are the guys behind ENCAPSULATE, a mushroom extract supplement company, as well as the Atlanta Mushroom Festival. Going to learn a lot more about both of those things right now, which you can find more info out online at encapsulateusa.com and atlantamushroomfestival.com. Guys, thank you so much for the time. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Oh, yeah, me too. And Dave, how about you? How are things going for you on your end
Gr-
today?
Great, Trey. Thanks for having us. This is really exciting.
It's my pleasure, and I am excited to get into this. But we need to start by helping everybody to get to know each of you guys a little bit more. So, Paul, we're going to start with you here. What is a succinct version of your background story and how you ultimately got involved in mushrooms and now encapsulate?
Yeah, so I went to school at Georgia Tech and got a degree in chemistry, a minor in material science engineering. Did an undergraduate thesis where I produced a bunch of research on synthetic organic chemicals. And I got into mushrooms while I was at Tech. I grew some cubensis at my fraternity house and had a pretty magical experience. And then from there was like, okay, well, if this can do this, what can all the other mushrooms do? And that was kind of the journey I started on with my background in chemistry. I started doing a ton of research just in what all the other functional mushrooms are and what edible mushrooms have all these other medicinal properties, and kind of just went on this giant deep dive. And then it wasn't until much later I ended up getting a job at the CDC in the Division of Tuberculosis Elimination. And while I was there, I started my business, my first business, Mushroom Kings. And at the time, it was for importing and exporting black and white truffles from Italy and Romania. And, over time, it kind of evolved. And way, way, way later down the line, I met Dave back in, probably late 2013, and we had been friends for a long time. And Dave gave this amazing opportunity to start a supplement company. And, I was like, I'm all in. Let's do this.
What exactly did you do for the CDC, Paul?
So I ran their typing assay. So typing is a type of genetic barcoding for tuberculosis. So there are roughly 10,000 clinical outbreaks. So outbreaks as in like someone got sick, went to a doctor, they collected a sample, they then took that sample, sent it off to a lab in Michigan that we had contracted in order to do the extraction of that DNA, and then they would send that DNA sample to back to the CDC, where I would then take that sample and plate it out, and then use an ion torrent in order to do small base pair sequencing to produce this oligo pattern, this like genetic barcode. And that was really important because that data was then getting uploaded to a national database where it was then sent out to all the TB controllers in the areas that these TB occurrences occurred. And so that was a way that people could help track who was giving what to who. So if in a room there was like 10 people with TB and 5 people had the same Spoligo pattern, there's a very high likelihood that those 5 people might have given it to each other. So it helped TB controllers to be able to do better epidemiology for tracking who and where and how tuberculosis was spreading in our country.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And you, Dave, how about you? How did you get to the point that you're at today? I guess stopping a little bit short of the initiation of Encapsulate.
When I met Paul 10 years ago, I said, everybody needs a scientist. And I was right. Here, it was foreshadowing our friendship. I come from a totally different background. I grew up in Atlanta, originally started in Australia. My parents were both educators. And I went to University of Georgia, landed up playing football, but I also was doing music. So I became a Grammy voting violinist on the side. I had a 30-odd year career in music, was with a record label, launched a video that spawned the Cobra Kai series, Sweep the Leg from No More Kings. That was fun. Then I did BMI for a while, 12 years to be exact, working with songwriters, getting them seen, heard, and paid. And I've still played music on the side and been an entrepreneur the whole time. So when Paul and I met 10 years ago, I knew he was different. I knew he was somebody that I wanted to be friends with. because every time I spoke with him, I learned so much. And I think that's what's exciting and what brings us here today with our products and, with the nonprofit and everything that you want to talk to us about.
Sure. And Dave, Paul mentioned that he first became interested in mushrooms back in college. Not necessarily just the psychedelic type, but just what fungi mean and just how they operate. When did you
Yeah.
first become curious about mushrooms?
Well, I am like probably a lot of viewers on this show. I was mycophobic. I had fear of mushrooms. I literally thought it was going to get me into trouble. So, being drug tested as a 4-year college athlete at the University of Georgia, I did not want to go near mushrooms. I did like them. And then Paul kept telling me over and over and over, hey, mushrooms could help you with your head, with your anxiety, with a whole bunch of issues, inflammation, most importantly. And, it wasn't until probably 8 years after,
Yeah.
maybe 6 years after you saying that to me, the first time that I dabbled. And, I started to lucky dip with psilocybin. And then we created this amazing product. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. It's almost 3 years ago we created this product, but I literally started using our own product. And that's when everything really changed for me.
So let's talk about the genesis of this project because it actually started as an email newsletter to try and inform those that you knew about the medicinal qualities of perfectly legal mushrooms that maybe not at every grocery store, but can be bought at specialty grocery stores. So I'll let you guys decide who would be the best person to maybe start the initiation of what would eventually become Encapsulate. So, how did this idea all really begin?
It began a couple years after we first met. David come to me and was like, "Hey, he was talking about some of one of his friends that had cancer, and I was like, "Hey, there's a lot of studies that show that taking functional mushrooms, Reishi, Chaga, lion's mane, Shiitake, turkey tail, in high doses in conjunction with chemotherapy and radiation treatment can dramatically increase your chance of survival. And there's a bunch of research that also shows that, ethanol extracts and some water extracts from these mushrooms can also have anti-cancer effects, cytotoxic effects on certain types of cell lines for lung cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, brain cancer, tumors."
And where was this research coming from at the time?
PubMed and just, any Nature and a whole bunch of other publications that you can find online. And this isn't, I'm not talking about just like a Googling and looking at articles written by other people. I'm talking about white paper research publications that are done by scientists, posted, peer reviewed, and coming from really big names. And so I kind of put an email together with that, including Paul Stamets' TED Talk about his mother and helping her with her stage 4 breast cancer using turkey tail mushrooms that he was growing, and gave that email to Dave. And ever since, Dave passed it around for years and years and years. And I'll let you take over from there.
During COVID, I got a call from a friend of mine in Sanibel Island, Florida. And he said, hey, Dave, let's go out for dinner. I need to tell you something. Now, this guy was a great friend of mine. His son was my first male intern. I always had females. They were just more reliable. But he ended up doing film and television. And he said, hey, Sam's living in Atlanta, but my wife, Lynn, has cancer. I got the email. Where do I get this stuff? You have 2 weeks to figure it out. I said, okay, Paul, where do we get this? He goes, didn't we just have a call with those people in Oregon and California? I called them, gave Paul the phone. He gave them his mix, his master mix: lion's mane, reishi, chaga, cordyceps, turkey tail, shiitake. And he didn't get the testing he wanted. We told our client that we don't have the testing to share. You just have to go with us. This is, 70 growers in California and Colorado, Oregon area. He goes, okay. So we did. We gave it to Lynn. She started immediately while she was undergoing her chemotherapy and her radiation. She was stage 4 at the time. 58 days later, he was sneaking this into her smoothie every morning. First thing in the morning, a 10-gram scoop, and a 10-gram scoop at night for afternoon tea. She said 58 days later, hey, I'm tired of this stuff. I don't like it anymore. It tastes gross. Figure out something else. I want pills. I go back to Paul. I said, hey, Paul, can we put this in real capsules? Like, is there a potency way we can do that? He goes, yeah, simple. We're going extracts. We became a company. We started shipping this stuff out. And the long and short of it is so many people started taking their partner's product, let alone we started taking it ourselves. And the effects, as you know, are almost in 3 days, if not in 10, 20 minutes.
It is shocking how quickly the positive effects take hold. I'm somebody that at the age of 46 now, like with a lot of people, even though I eat relatively cleanly, just a lifetime of eating junk here and there has led to a lot of acid reflux, especially at night. And that's very disruptive to sleep. And
Mhm.
within a matter of 2, 3, 4 days, that had changed significantly. And then you keep taking it, and a sort of fog starts to lift. And maybe that's the result of getting a better night's sleep. And maybe it's partially the result of the extracts in encapsulate as well. But it is truly mind blowing the benefits that exist in such a short amount of time from this wonderful supplement, Paul.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I keep telling people is that we are not reinventing the wheel. We are taking information and knowledge that has existed for thousands of years and within the past 100 years has been heavily studied, just not here in America. And we are translating that knowledge from Asia to the United States, and then just trying to help promote awareness and let people know that this type of product does exist and it's readily available. And maybe not every single person that takes it is going to have profound effects, but we found just through sampling the product out to people that the vast majority of people who take it do feel something. And even the people who don't immediately feel something, they end up noticing the difference when they stop taking it. They'll take it for 2, 3 weeks, a month, and be like, well, I don't feel anything. And then after that, they're like, man, I'm not sleeping as well. My inflammation, my joints kind of hurt. Man, I need to get back on that stuff again. Where are my functional mushrooms?
Yeah.
And the big difference between kind of us and everyone else, and David noted, we started originally with a product that was a blend of mycelia and mushrooms. They were growing the mycelia on brown rice, fruiting the whole block, and then taking the block, drying it down, pulverizing it to a powder. And that's what we were blending and mixing. And so, when I confronted them about testing, because if we're going to give something to cancer patients, we have to know that it doesn't have any microbials, heavy metals. It's not going to make someone sicker. And they were unwilling to share that. So we're like, okay, well, this works out better for us anyway, because we know that also chitin, which is the main constituent in the cell walls of the mushroom, can cause, indigestion, upset stomach for certain people. Some people are just allergic to it because their bodies don't know how to break it down. And that's where, moving towards extract, you get none of that, and then way more of the medicinal benefits, because it's just so much more concentrated. You can get a lot more in a much smaller volume, and that was the direction we decided to go, and we haven't looked back since.
We really haven't. And, when we talk to people like co-packers and all these people that, love the product, want to go big, who see Walmart, they don't really see what we're trying to do, which is, hey, this is an 8-to-1 extract mostly. Our new line will include 1-to-1s and a whole bunch of individuals, but this is really potent stuff. And it's designed to help reduce the inflammation, give you that serotonin reuptake experience, get you out the door, walking your dog, feeling great, but all day. So you don't have to take a nap.
Yeah,
And
let's
I think it helps a lot of people throughout their daily use, just getting through a day.
let's talk specifically about the functionality of some of the mushrooms that help to create encapsulate. And I'm going on the website now, and I can't see a couple of these, but there's Reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and what are the other two mushrooms, Paul, that are a
Yeah.
part of this blend?
Shiitake and turkey tail.
Shiitake and turkey tail. So let's go
Yep.
down each of those and just talk a little bit about uh, what positive health benefits each of these can have, starting with reishi mushrooms.
Sure. Reishi has triterpenes and ganodermic acid, which are really been shown to have some effects against cancer. They have antimicrobial properties. What's great about Reishi is that we've noticed that a lot of people who take it, and there's some minor studies on this, that it can help with regulating blood sugar, helping lower bad cholesterol, helping also with regulating blood pressure. So, Reishi also, anecdotally, some people say it has a very calming effect. So taking it during the day can help with anxiety. Taking it before night can, for some people can help them get slightly better rest. Reishi is a mushroom that has been revered for thousands of years. In China, it was the emperor's mushroom. It was reserved exclusively for the elite, and people who were found foraging that mushroom on the emperor's land were killed for essentially stealing it from nobility. So, it's something that's been around for a long time and people have touted the benefits of, but there's just not a lot of research that has been done here, in America on this.
How about lion's mane?
Yeah, lion's mane has erinacines and a whole bunch of other compounds that that have been, not necessarily those compounds, but the mushroom as a whole has been shown to promote nerve growth factor. Nerve growth factor is responsible for the production of myelin around your neurons. So myelin is like the plastic coating on a copper wire. So if you think of your neurons as the copper that's sending the signals, the myelin is that plastic coating on that copper that helps to make sure that that it doesn't get grounded along the way and that those signals don't get shorted. So, having that myelin is really important as far as aging goes, because as the older you get, the more that myelin gets worn down over time through oxidative stress and damage. So having something that helps to promote that can improve cognitive enhancement and benefits, and it can just help you age better and feel more yourself.
How about cordyceps?
Cordyceps have cordycepins, and cordycepin is a compound that mimics ATP, which is your body's energy molecule. So by taking cordyceps and having all that cordycepin floating around in your body, it can improve your energy because it mimics energy. And so it helps your mitochondria stimulate more ATP. It helps your body feel more energized. A lot of, it was originally found in the Himalayas, so people would take it natively for the purpose of altitude sickness and adjusting to the low oxygen environment of being in the mountains. So if you look at it for that benefit, and then you're taking it at ground level in high doses, it can just dramatically improve the oxygenation of your blood and the overall energy that you have and you feel. And people have also taken it as a natural aphrodisiac. So, improving blood flow and circulation, that's a part of the benefit, I guess.
And what's important to know about chaga?
Chaga has a ton of antioxidants. When you look at chaga, it's black, and when you crack it open, the sclerotia is usually a deep orange to reddish color, and all that color are just really, really powerful antioxidants that zap free radicals and can help clean up your liver and take better care of your blood. And it also it has some anti-cancer effects. And in ancient times in Russia, they revered chaga as a anti-tumor. So if someone had, some sort of weird growths around their body, they would go and take chaga, crush it up, make it into a tea, and drink that as a part of their treatment regimen.
And next up we have Shiitake. So why is Shiitake a part of this blend?
So Shiitake is not only a delicious edible mushroom, but it also has these really powerful compounds, notably ergothioneine, which is a super, super powerful antioxidant that helps to promote better skin health, better, hair growth, nail growth. It's also really great for just taking care of your blood, your liver, your body. I've also found that Shiitake helps with digestion and other things. So, Shiitake is a part of it because of this antioxidant blend. The more variety that you have, you treat a broader spectrum of things that might be ailing somebody. So instead of just in the pharmaceutical industry, they give a single drug that is just one thing. And that's great for only tackling one type of problem. But having a spectrum allows you to treat, or allows you to maybe not necessarily treat, but allows you to try and help boost the benefits from a wider spectrum of issues that you may be having.
That's right. And finally, we have turkey tail. What do you love about turkey tail?
Yeah, so turkey tail is a pretty interesting mushroom. As far as back in 1970, Japan started doing research on the water extracts of this mushroom, and following that, China started doing the same thing in 1971, producing PSK and PSA, which is respectively, the main polysaccharide that they were extracting from the mushrooms that were regionally grown in those areas. And what's interesting is that they found that these mushrooms had very profound immune system enhancing effects, so much so that they started using PSK and PSA, this main polysaccharide that they were extracting from the mushrooms, as a part of their national cancer treatment regimens in the early 1970s. So, there's a history of using mushrooms to help, promote wellness and even treat clinical problems. And yet this knowledge is trapped in another country and is yet to really migrate over here. And that's really what we're trying to do, is just to destigmatize mushrooms as a whole, so that people can feel comfortable maybe trying something different and just seeing what it might be able to do for them. And we're not claiming that it's necessarily going to do anything, but there is a lot of history that shows that, I mean, humans very rarely like to waste our time. We're not going to do something for thousands of years that is just ineffective. And so why have people, there's no reason why humans would be consuming these mushrooms for that long if they didn't do something.
I think the thing that's important to talk about here, packaging, encapsulate, is that it's liquid soluble. With all the other offerings out there, you've got Rise coffee, you've got mud water. Those aren't even valuable in regards to the potency that you're getting with our product. And if you wanted just to order it in extract only, it mixes within seconds.
Mm.
So, we've already invaded the food chain here in Atlanta, Georgia,
Mm.
wherein, everything from chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, to beer with Wild Heaven Brewery. They do a mushroom beer with us, to kombucha with Ancient Awakenings and Woodstock. Shout out. So yeah, the things that you can do with this, we're talking to King of Pops. We'd love to put this in a popsicle. Can you imagine a Cordyceps pop? So there's a lot of things you can do with it because it's liquid soluble, and that's where extracts differ, say, than the other mushroom powder offerings.
And Dave, let's continue with how you guys have really grown and become an integral part of the Atlanta scene, which is where both of y'all live, obviously, and really helped to grow. Yep, as we see the bag right there, the Atlanta Mushroom Festival. This idea and this company was really able to grow, starting with the Georgia Mushroom Festival, but it turned very quickly into the Atlanta Mushroom Festival. So, what exactly is the Atlanta Mushroom Festival?
I'll let Paul give it to you because he's an encyclopedia.
Thanks, Dave. So we first started by we had just kind of created this product. We had moved from the myceliated powder with mushrooms mixed into the extract. And Dave and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, what's the next step? The next step was like, okay, now we got to get it out to the people. We got to get it outside of our Rolodex of friends and family. We got to start introducing this to the public. And so the very first event we ever went to and vended at was Georgia Mushroom Festival. And that was our jumping point. That was where we kind of leapt off into the real world. And while we were there, it was a huge hit. And we did really well, and a lot of people really loved the product. And we realized at that point, like, okay, like there's a demand for this, and this is the place to do it, where the mushroom people are congregating. And that was kind of the original idea behind the Atlanta Mushroom Festival, was to help all these mushroom entrepreneurs that had started in 2020. Through 2022, a lot of people had during COVID quit their jobs or started up side hustles and started entering the mushroom space that way. And we're trying to make a living. And we were like, okay, well, having a mushroom festival once a year puts too much pressure on everyone to show up during this one time. And everybody, a lot of the people, I'd say probably 80% of the people we talked to were from Atlanta. And so we were like, why are we traveling all the way out 2 hours to Cave Spring, Georgia, which is beautiful, when the majority of the people who are coming are from our city? Like, we should be doing this in Atlanta. And so that's when we started up the Atlanta Mushroom Festival. And from there, it kind of, after our very first event, it was very simple. We just had vendors and music. And from there, we quickly realized, like, oh my gosh, like, this is not just an exploration into entrepreneurship and giving people a way to create a livelihood with their jobs and with all these things that they're trying to come up with. This is an opportunity to really build a community that is thirsty, is really wanting knowledge about everything that is mushrooms. And so we started expanding and offering a lot of education with our festival. And that's kind of how it's grown since. And we'll be 2 years, July 30th this year, of running the fest. And we'll have our 8th festival on June 23rd.
Yep.
At Park Tavern in Piedmont Park. We originally started at Wild Heaven because Dave is really good relationship with the owner. He went to school with Eric.
Yeah.
And since then, it's just kind of grown into this whole thing. I mean, we're creating culture, and we're helping to just change people's minds. And that's really what the festival is about at this point, is really just trying to destigmatize the fungi kingdom as a whole, not just mushrooms, but just like the entire idea of what mushrooms can be, what they look like, and how they can integrate into the human experience.
That's right. It's really capitalizing on a community that exists with people who care about mushrooms, but making sure, Dave, to educate others on that as well. Like, when you guys described this to me over the phone a couple of days ago, it was somewhat reminiscent of a festival here in Austin called South by Southwest that started out as a music festival, but really is a convergence of ideas and sharing art and all sorts of other things. You guys are doing that in Atlanta on a quarterly basis with mushrooms, and there is a very important educational component that comes with that too.
Mm-hmm. When Paul introduced me to mushrooms, and when we were talking about it, how would we take this? Well, we decided we wanted to do a nonprofit first, which we have nonprofit pending right now, Global Mushroom Initiative, GMI. And that's really what drives this whole Atlanta Mushroom Festival. That's how we even got here on the radio with you. We've got a great partner with Dickey Broadcasting, who run ads for us on ESPN Radio and 680 The Fan, Braves Country. We're looking at trying to add more partners. We're already working with Emory, which is a great partner to have. They just did a big panel at our festival, and it was the most attended. And, we're excited to keep growing because we realize that this is for everybody. If you go to our festival, you see that right away. You don't see the same looking people. There's everybody from everywhere, all walks of life, and they're all there to get educated, because that's what this is all about. Where else are you going to go to learn about mushrooms and what they can do for your health? A mushroom festival. And we're located right in Atlanta's Central Park, Piedmont Park. So it's accessible to all. And we recommend that people keep coming and checking us out, because we're dog and kid friendly. You can spend all day with us, and you'll probably be able to learn and meet new people all at the same time. In a post-COVID world, that's something that's hard to come by.
For people who want to stay in the know on the Atlanta Mushroom Festival, is there a social media site or handle or website that they should know about?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. AtlantaMushroomFestival.com is our website. And then we're on the Instagram, Atlanta Mushroom Festival, Twitter, ATL Mushroom Festival. And I think we're also on Facebook, Atlanta Mushroom Festival.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, all those places. All right. So you did just mention Emory, and that's the next important point for us to cover here, Paul, because the Emory's Science on Spirituality program has been instrumental in the Atlanta Mushroom Festival and you guys' ability to really inform and educate the public on what's going on here. So, what exactly is Emory's Science on Spirituality?
Yeah, so it kind of all started because I was looking for more speakers to come and speak at the festival, and what you'll find at other festivals are a lot of enthusiasts, not a lot of necessarily scientists or people with scientific backgrounds that are giving talk like high level talks to the public. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I started Googling around for people that would be at that level to come to the festival and speak. And that's when I had found the Emory Center for Psychedelics and Spirituality, and I reached out to them, and they came back and were like, "Yeah, this sounds like a great public outreach. Like, how do we get involved?" And it kind of was just a perfect match from there. And while the festival isn't necessarily about psychedelics and spirituality, that is an integral part of the fungi kingdom as a whole, right? With psychedelic mushrooms and the way that they affect the body and the mind and the connection between the two, and also the connection outside of ourselves to something greater. We both believe that it's really important that to give a broad approach and to give a wide scope view of how mushrooms can help human existence overall, and that's something that Emory Center for Psychedelics and Spirituality deeply believes in. And yeah, they're a great group. And we, shout out to George and Roman, Jessica and Melise for participating and coming out and being very supportive of us. And basically what they are doing, and I think that they'll agree with my synopsis, or at least I hope they do, is that they are trying to define spirituality. And they realize that psychedelics are a way to help promote spiritual wellness. And so inevitably, the steps that they're trying to undergo is define what spirituality is from a scientific and clinical perspective, to show that spirituality has importance in someone's wellness, and that's with healthy individuals and with people who are at end of life, so people with like terminal illnesses, and then to find modalities to help improve their spiritual wellness. And either that is through some sort of therapy, or that is through psychedelics, or that is through MDMA therapy. There's lots of different modalities that can be utilized as far as substances and types of treatments, prolonged exposure therapy, or CMT, or all sorts of other or different things. So, or cognitive behavioral therapy. So there's a lot of different ways that they are trying to go about defining, what spirituality is. How does it make a difference? And if it does make a difference, how to modulate that and improve it amongst people in a way that there is clinical data that shows that it's important and it's relevant.
And that's important, by the way, not just for our own knowledge, but it's important for the idea that at some point insurance companies might be able to help to cover psychedelic assisted therapy too, correct?
Yeah, and that's a big part of what they're trying to do, is that if you ever want to have insurance to be able to cover something, for people to be able to get treatments, or at least for the government not to go and crack down on churches or other types of facilitators that are offering this service, you have to be able to define it. You have to be able to show the benefits of it in a way that is statistically meaningful. And then from there, you can create a network that allows space for insurance companies to look at it and be like, okay, we can see the benefits of this, and we can approve the cost of this thing, because it does promote overall wellness, and it can improve the quality of life that someone has, especially if someone is, already approaching their end of life, or maybe has suicidal thoughts or ideations, or attempted suicide, where normal psychiatric medications aren't working, or for people who just are needing more out of their lives and feel lost and going through kind of their midlife crisis.
The idea of quantifying or defining spirituality as it pertains to happiness and well-being is a fascinating one. What has Emory uncovered in the 2 years of its existence with regards to those things as it attempts to accomplish these massive goals?
Well, Dave and I just went to their yearly SOS symposium on spirituality, or science on spirituality, and it was really, really fascinating. There were all sorts of clinicians, scientists, ministers. I mean, you name it. They had everybody there, and they were all speaking about if you think about spirituality as a gem, everybody was looking and analyzing a different facet of that gem. And overall, what they were able to show is that people who had, some sort of spiritual connection, or at least were feeling as though their spiritual needs were being met, people who were approaching their end of life, who had terminal diseases, they tended to have statistically less fear about dying, less anxiety about dying. Their depression levels were significantly lower. I think the levels were around 30%, 40% lower than people who didn't. And in the end, their transitions were much more peaceful, and not only for them but for their family members, because their family members felt like they were being cared for in the way that they deserved to be cared for. Because oftentimes when people are sick, they go to the doctor, and and what they discussed there, which was, I thought was also interesting, is that in medicine it comes across as a transactional type of relationship. You go, you're sick, they give you something, and then you're supposed to get healed. When in the past, the relationship was much more dynamic than that. Your healer was a facilitator of your wellness. They weren't just there to give you drugs to make you feel better. They were actually there to treat the emotional side of your affliction, as well as the very physical side that was affecting your body. And that has evolved. We've evolved away from that over time. And what they're arguing for is that by defining spirituality and by showing that improving it, can dramatically improve outpatient, clinical, the patient's results, that it has a lot of importance, and that we should go back towards this model of seeing a sick person just not as like a car that needs a new alternator or needs a tune-up, but more as like the system as a whole, where this is a person that needs to have their emotional, their spiritual, and their physical needs met in order to ensure that they have the greatest amount of outcome. In even if they're approaching end of life, the outcome would be that they're leaving on a better foot than just being afraid and feeling alone.
Bedside manner is so important. That's why hospitals are such an ironic concept to me, right? They're these totally sterile places, and they need to be sterile because of the potential for disease, but they are just these lifeless places that sadly far too often people just go to die. And even when you're talking about just a general checkup, my wife is a family nurse practitioner, and she and I talk all the time about how sometimes she just needs to be somebody to sit there and listen to someone vent about their problems for a little bit. And perhaps there is a medical intervention that comes along with that, but she understood a long time ago that that is a big part of the job. Sadly, a lot of doctors have terrible bedside manner. So it does become more of this transactionary sort of deal, on top of the fact that a lot of corporate medical establishments are pushing and pressuring so hard to meet certain numbers and to turn patients over every 20 minutes or so, that it does become this impersonal thing when somebody obviously cares enough to take the time and pay the money to try and address whatever underlying health issues they're dealing with. Dave?
That first slide is still stuck in my head. I think I shared it with you. It was the lack of empathy and the void of compassion in the medical space.
Yeah.
And how that was often fulfilled by the doctor. You go back to the old monks, they would bow to their patient and they would serve them because, had a a faith-based attachment to that as they were representing God. So I think, what we've learned in this is it's just confirmation of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is we are helping people heal from their guts to their brains. And we're a part of a larger movement, which is taking place. And we are excited to be in Atlanta, you know, this amazing city with all these wonderful educators and education centers. So we're beyond excited to continue to do this and have partners that are aware of what we're doing and want to continue these dialogues. And just can't say thank you enough for having us on your show.
Oh, of course. And I wanted to touch on, or I wanted to get back to something that I believe was touched on earlier. Paul, you guys do insist on third party testing for
Mhm.
encapsulate, which
Yeah.
is important. I think a fair number of people probably understand as to why, but for those who maybe don't understand the concept of third party testing, why is that so important for you guys in making sure that you're doing this thing right too?
Sure. So in order to understand that, you have to kind of understand what mushrooms do. And so mushrooms break down complex polymers such as cellulose into simpler bits and pieces so that the bacteria in the soil and the trees can reuptake those nutrients. And so what mushrooms are is they are the great decomposers of our environment. They take things, they attach themselves to it, they break it down to nice small pieces so that everything else around it can flourish. And so if you think about mushrooms like that, then it's easy to understand that when you're working with mushrooms, if your starting material that you're growing the mushrooms on is heavily contaminated with something, let's say for heavy metals, right? They're going to take that and they are going to break it down and then absorb it. And then they're going to push it into their fruiting bodies. And so what ends up happening is that when you grow mushrooms on contaminated material, it concentrates it. And then when you extract it, you concentrate it even further. So you get a hyper concentrated solution of heavy metals or whatever the heck. And so that's why third party testing is so important. And particularly in Asia, when I had first started really studying all of this, I had read reports, clinical reports, where doctors had made note of people who had been taking chaga supplements or reishi supplements or other types of supplements that were extract based and had gotten like really severe mercury poisoning or arsenic poisoning or lead poisoning, all because these supplements had been tainted because they were grown off of substrates that were probably downwind from some sort of manufacturing plant. And the trees, that were harvested, that those trees absorbed all of those toxins, and then they grew the mushrooms from those trees. And so it's really important to do these third-party testing so that you know what the heck you're getting yourself into. And particularly because we started, serving this to cancer patients, as a way for them to help promote overall wellness and stimulate their immune systems while they're going through treatment. It was in good conscience that we couldn't give something to somebody that we didn't know wasn't going to
Yeah.
make them sicker. And so, another part of the third party testing is that we can test for the active ingredients in the mushrooms, like the beta glucans, the triterpenes, cordycepins, these types of things. And as more of these alkaloids get studied, you will see that there will be more tests for these things. And as people's knowledge of these things grow, you will see more companies going and posting this information about how much of, what percent of all of these active alkaloids that they have. And so it's only a matter of time. It's kind of like in the very beginning in the cannabis industry, everybody was always just concerned about THC. It was THC, THC, THC. And then eventually people were like, oh my gosh, okay, there's more than just THC. There's CBD, there's CBN, there's CBG, there's THCV, right? There's all these other compounds. And, now we're at the point where there's been enough research that we kind of know that, CBD can help with inflammation. THCV is a great antioxidant and also helps with inflammation. CBG can do this, that, and the other. And so we're now at this point where it's like, okay, well, we're heading towards a precipice where these two different fields, but you can see in parallel how they're growing dynamically together. And it's just a matter of time until there's more research, there's more studying, there's more people in academia that are going to jump on the bandwagon and be like, you know what, we should be studying this more. We should be researching this because there's a ton of novel compounds that could go and really aid the pharmaceutical industry in order to produce better drugs that end up helping people a lot more. With a prime example being what happened in 1970 in Japan and China with PSK and PSA from turkey tails. So it's really only a matter of time, but that's in a nutshell why third party testing and why it's important.
Thank you for that. And all right, last question for each of you now. Dave, we're going to start with you here because we are at the end of this conversation, at least part one of this conversation. I imagine there's going to be plenty of more in the future. Parting thoughts as we wrap up on Encapsulate, which people can find at encapsulateusa.com.
Yes, we are unraveling our new brand. So all of the different offerings are coming out. So stay tuned. If you want to get a promo code, I think there is one for Texas viewers, TX Sports. For Atlanta viewers, 680 for 680 the fan, and that'll save you $10 off on our website. Other than that, look at Amazon. I think that's where the reviews really say it all. It's pretty amazing.
Paul, parting thoughts?
I'm really excited about the product. We're doing this rebrand, and that's phenomenal. I'm even more excited about the Global Mushroom Initiative and what we're going to be offering there. As the festival grows, and the festival is kind of the vehicle that generates the income for the nonprofit. So as the festival grows, so will the nonprofit. We're very excited to be offering entrepreneurship classes for a lot of our vendors that come and vend at our festival. We're super excited to start doing community outreach, and particularly with kids in schools. They have this very simple way of growing oyster mushrooms in recycled materials using old newspaper and a little bit of alfalfa and newspaper bags. So, there's a lot of really cool ways that we want to do outreach to kids. And then, for adults, the festival is really the best way for you to learn. We're trying to get CDC's mycotic department to come and speak on mushroom-borne disease, fungi-borne diseases, and how the CDC is keeping us safe from them. We're trying to get UGA's mycology department to come out and talk about the different types of fungi diseases that can affect crops, and why it's important that we study these things in order to ensure that we have a food supply in our country, and that we don't go through giant famines. We're really just trying to get everybody together. And that's something that not a lot of places offer. This is the only festival that I know about that's focused on mushrooms that is able to offer this quality of information from this broad of a scope. And we're also trying to reach out to Ecovative, which has a mushroom packaging company. They just opened up a new facility, I believe, in North Carolina. South Carolina. Yeah. Okay. And they're doing all sorts of amazing things. They started up in 2013, and there's even Microworks, which makes mushroom leather. And so we're just trying to really break the mold of what people think mushrooms are and what they can do. I mean, they can replace plastics, they can replace traditional leathers, they can be used as sources for new pharmaceuticals, they can be used as supplements to heal, they can be used in packaging and in all sorts of other types of manufacturing applications, insulation. You can use mushrooms to build homes. Believe it was there's somebody at Berkeley that went and did they made a big structure out of spent mushroom blocks, and a guy somewhere else in California that was able to make furniture out of mycelia. So it's just like a cool project. So there's so many different ways and so many different means, and of course the psychedelic aspect with spirituality, and just there's this whole resurgence of what if we were more connected, and we're seeing that happen in real time. And it's being destigmatized, and people are growing in their awareness, and they want more. And that's where we're just trying to create a safe space for everybody to come and just listen, and then maybe talk about it.
Try a mushroom burger.
Yeah. And for some people, that's the beauty of it is I started, my first experience was, and I had hated mushrooms my entire life, all the way up to the point where I had tried some golden teachers that I had grown. And then from that point, I was like, well, maybe I should give the rest of the fungi kingdom a try. Maybe I've been selling it short. And that's what kind of broke me into everything else. And for some people, they start out by just walking in the woods and finding mushrooms and getting a curiosity. And then they start foraging. And then from foraging, they start eating the mushrooms and having culinary experiences. And then from there, they might try psychedelics. Or some people are like, I love growing things. So they start growing mushrooms, and then, start foraging after they start growing, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't matter really, which part of the fungi kingdom you touch. If you touch it and just find a fascination with that one thing, eventually it will lead you down the rabbit hole to discovering all of it. So that's kind of the beauty of mushrooms. And one thing I I forgot to mention about what mushrooms do is not only do they decompose, but they connect. So they have these relationships with plants, mycorrhizal relationships, where they help to shuttle nutrients into things. So not only do mushrooms do a really good job of breaking things down to create that base nutrition, but they also do a phenomenal job of taking those nutrients and shuttling it into plants and into things that need it. And so that's kind of their relationship, is they break down the constructs of what you think it is. And then it helps connect you to this entire world of what it can be. And that's truly, at least in my opinion, the beauty of mushrooms and the fungi kingdom.
Well said there. They are Paul Grzybowski and Dave Claassen, the guys behind ENCAPSULATE and the Atlanta Mushroom Festival. Go to atlantamushroomfestival.com and encapsulateusa.com. And I am not being histrionic when I tell you that anecdotally for me and several other people I know, taking this supplement either once a day or a couple of times a day has done wonders in helping me out personally, health-wise, helping with my acid reflux, helping with mental clarity, helping with sleep as well. And there's a good chance that it might be able to help you out as well. Go to encapsulateusa.com to find out more and to get that order out the door to you guys. Thank you so much for the time today.
Thanks,
and thank
Trey.
you so much for your efforts in informing and helping the general public through mushrooms.
This is great. And if you want to watch our next festival, you can live stream on our YouTube page or just go to atlantamushroomfestival.com and you can watch it live.
Yeah, that's one thing that we forgot to note is that we do live stream all of our content and then we break it up into videos. So even if you aren't at the festival, if you want to continue to learn from the festival, all that information is available on YouTube for free for your viewing pleasure. We would love if you would join us either in spirit through the live stream or at least be interested in learning more. It's all there for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Trey.
Much love.
You, man.
Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Hear more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. And thanks to you for hanging out. For more of the show and to connect on social media, visit booksonpod.com. Talk to you next time on Books on Pod.